budget meeting, our budget presentation meeting tonight. We're going to be presenting our 2023-2024 town budget and utility budget, and I just want to welcome Nancy and Gary Schoenfeld, Deputy Mayor Steve Gallant, Councillor Gordy Cox, Councillor Jill Chandler, our CAO Jeremy Crosby, our Director of Finance Kim O'Connell, our Manager of Community and Business Engagement Wendy Watts, and our Chair of Finance Ron Dowling. So we're going to be just going over how we're spending your money and what some of the choices are that we had to make and where the priorities are. We hope that I think all the councillors and the deputy mayor went door to door, and we got a good feeling for what's important to people and where you want us to spend your money. So we tried to do that as much as possible. Staff did a great job in terms of developing the bones of the budget, I guess, and then there were some decisions made by council at we had three or four meetings, I guess, Kim, and we went through each item in detail and looked at every item and how we're going to spend your money. So I hope that this is something that you find responds to your priorities and your wishes and your needs. However, if there are any things that have been left out or anything that you think we should be spending your money on other than what's in the budget, then please let us know. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to our Chair of Finance, Councillor Ron Dowling.
Thank you, Your Worship. So good evening, everyone. I see a few people in that braved the storm this evening, and I know some people will be viewing online, and some will choose to review the recorded matters afterwards, and we appreciate everyone's level of engagement in being with us this evening. So welcome to the Town of Stratford's 2023-24 draft budget presentation. We're pleased to be presenting the draft budget this evening to you this year in person for the first time in a number of years, as well as being able to live stream and record the presentation, and we'll be making this presentation available to the public as well. The format for this evening will be a presentation of this draft budget in its entirety, followed by an opportunity for questions and answers, observations and other comments related to you that you may wish to share. The newly elected Town Council have worked alongside town staff in recent weeks to deliver a draft budget this evening, which we believe is fair and within our means. It will allow for some projects and initiatives to move forward, some dependent on further funding partnerships and some on their own, while being mindful of the inflationary time that we're all currently experiencing. The draft budget period is a time for you to have your say. Please spend some time reflecting on what we present, and following tonight you will have another week to let your thoughts be heard through a short online draft budget feedback survey. We ask you to take a few minutes to respond to the draft budget survey, which will help guide us, your council, as we move forward with the passing of the budget later this month. The survey, a recording of tonight's presentation, and a copy of my presentation will all be available on the town's website tomorrow morning. While we recognize that we can't always accommodate all requests, we do appreciate knowing what is important to you and where you feel tax dollars are best spent. The 2023-24 draft budget presented to you this evening has been worked on through collaboration with our town staff and council. As many of us are new on council and in our first budget process with the town of Stratford, it has been a great strength to have such dedicated and highly capable staff to work alongside us. The draft budget being presented with no municipal tax increases for the coming year. However, every year it becomes more and more difficult to achieve this. The town has been working alongside fellow municipalities through the Federation of PEI Municipalities to negotiate an increase to the current revenue sharing agreement with the province of PEI. These funds are necessary to allow communities like ours to deliver the services and programs to our residents, which we are responsible for through the Municipal Government Act, and more importantly, which we want to be able to provide to you. In going through the budget process, it should be noted that our community continues to grow and our needs change. Growth is positive for our community as it provides us with more opportunities and it will set us up for a successful future, but only if we plan for and can be prepared for the growth. Growth will see our service, program, and infrastructure delivery expand for all residents, but can also by times put strain on our finances. As Stratford continues to be in a period of growth, which on the surface appears to be a financially positive for the community, in the long run will be, growth in fact stretches our finances and budgets over the short term. There are many demands placed on services, infrastructure, programming, and more, which remain both a challenge and an opportunity to deliver. The future growth of our community is positive in the long run and good news overall for Stratford, but it doesn't directly relate to increased revenue for the town, as many expect it should. Services including water and sewer infrastructure, trails and sidewalks, increased recreational culture programming and fire protection, among others, are required for the growth to occur and come at an expense that is not equal to our revenue growth. Your council will continue to ensure that the services and programming you expect and deliver remain while balancing future opportunities to stay within reach and reason for our community with as minimal impact to you as we can. With all this in mind, the upcoming year is an exciting one for the town of Stratford. We are preparing for the first phase of the community campus to begin later this spring with road construction, sewer and water, electrical services, and an active transportation trail. We continue to look for funding opportunities for further phases of development and are optimistic that funding for additional projects will be coming soon. Stratford Council will be voting on the proposed rezoning of the Crossroads development area this spring. There is both great excitement and, understandably, a bit of nervousness as well around a project of this magnitude. The development of our downtown core area at this stage of the community's existence is almost unheard of, and we want to ensure that we get it right. Council and staff continue to work closely with the developer's team, who are local residents as well, to ensure that we get the right mix of residential and commercial development in this multi-year project. I am pleased to say that the town of Stratford is in a good place financially. Our community has a history of being fiscally responsible and of planning for the future. That includes looking at expenditures to ensure that our project planning not only reflects construction and implementation costs, but also cost projections over the life cycle, including operating and maintenance and replacement planning. And we continue to be fiscally responsible within this budget. Many residents and others believe that we are a fiscally well-off community. While we are a fiscally responsible community, budgets are tight, and this year is no exception. Many residents don't realize or understand how their property taxes are divided between the town and the province, with only approximately 30% being returned to municipalities on Prince Edward Island. According to the Federation of PEI Municipalities, PEI is the only provincial government that collects more property tax than the municipalities in the province. The province levies nearly 70% of property taxes, and PEI municipalities have the lowest average per capita municipal tax revenue of all the provinces and territories in Canada. PEI municipalities have the lowest local tax revenue growth rate of all the provinces and territories in Canada. The compound annual growth rate for PEI between 2008 and 2020 is 2.33%, while the national average is 3.97%. The national average for share of tax revenue between municipalities and other orders of government, federal and provincial, is 9.2 cents per tax dollar. In PEI, municipalities only receive 2.2 cents per tax dollar. Much of the revenue received by the town of Stratford from your property tax goes towards services that the town has little discretion over, except for, in some cases, setting the service level you receive. These include items like police and fire protection, transit, street lighting, and all modes of active transportation. We have been financially challenged with the change to the revenue sharing model made by the province of PEI, which continues to greatly affect the amount of revenue we have to work with each year. We are currently working alongside our fellow island municipalities to negotiate a new revenue sharing agreement with the province of PEI and are hopeful that a fresh approach can be found, providing a long-term funding model that is predictable, stable, and fair. The change to this model, dating back to 2008 by the provincial government at the time, continues to greatly affect the amount of dollars the town of Stratford receives. In the upcoming budget year only, the town will have $702,000 less revenue to work with due to this change. This has a significant impact on our ability to provide the same level and number of services to you as residents. However, this change did not remove or lessen any of the responsibilities of municipalities to deliver these services to you. Municipalities in PEI have very few revenue sources available to them and rely primarily on property taxes, utility charges, and fees to pay for services and infrastructure. With limited options available, negative changes to funding agreements like this greatly affect our bottom line. Unlike municipalities, the province of PEI has many forms of revenue generation, including income tax, corporate tax, property tax, gas tax, fees, salaries, liquor, tobacco, and cannabis taxes, property transfer tax, licensing, and permits. Policing and fire dues make up a significant portion of our revenues in our budget annually. Your portion of fire dues are paid directly by the town of Stratford from within the property taxes collected from residents and commercial property owners. They have seen significant increases since 2018, going from $153 per commercial unit to $700.50 per commercial unit in the upcoming year, and from $66 for residential properties to $123.21 per residential property this coming year. On behalf of all residents, I'd like to take a moment to thank all of the volunteers in the Crossroads Fire Department. We are grateful for your service and recognize the sacrifice that you and your families make when calls come in at all hours of the night during all types of weather. Once again, in the 23-24 budget, inflation is affecting our bottom line. We have all experienced this over the past year, and town expenses are no exception. Though we had accounted for it, it was certainly felt throughout the year as the cost of goods and services rose across much of our operational expenses. We will continue to be mindful of our spending moving into a new budget period. Expenses in the general government section of the budget include police, fire, transit, council, and committee expenses, street lights, animal control, and CAO office expenses. This past year saw the launch of the Shape Stratford project, a project aimed at finding solutions around the barriers to new housing supply, with our first community conversation coming up this Thursday evening at 6:30 p.m. We look forward to seeing you come out on Thursday to have your voice included in this exciting project. The past year also saw the relaunch of the Switch Stratford program, which has been very well received by residents. Based on the demand of this program, the additional funds have again been depleted quickly. Staff are currently reviewing other potential programs that could assist residents in the future. The town's annual resident survey is also ongoing at this time, with just 1 week left for residents to have their say in a variety of topics, and I encourage you to take the time to do so. The annual results from the resident survey help guide both staff and council in decision making. Other planned investments that we're making in the general government area this year are expansion of the transit system, new town website, continued residential tree planting program, update to the community energy plan, 5-year annual donation to Tremploy towards construction of their new facility, implementation of additional supports for the local business community following feedback received through the first year of an annual business survey, and ongoing engagement with the business community. Core area development and potential zoning changes will see our community transform over the coming years if approved, and or an organizational review. Ongoing discussions are being held between the town of Stratford, province of PEI, and Public Safety Canada regarding the payment of retroactive back pay or owed for contract negotiations within the RCMP under a newly signed national collective agreement. Under this new agreement, RCMP wages have increased, which has an ongoing impact on our budget. In the Finance and Technology Department budget, the largest expense outside of staff expenses is the interest payment on town debt. In the 2023-24 draft budget, we will continue to pay down on our debt with an interest payment of $336,000 and principal payment of $519,000, which equates to 9% of our overall budget. A new staff position for the department to add a 50% position for administrative support is included, and the town is anticipating an increase to our insurance fees for both information technology related coverage as well as following Hurricane Fiona claims, which is reflected in the budget. The Town of Stratford Recreation, Culture and Events Department is committed to the development of our parks, natural areas and green spaces for current and future Stratford residents and town visitors. We take great pride in showcasing our town parks, maintaining them to the highest standards possible, ensuring that our parks are safe, clean, and accessible to all. The department is responsible for over 35 parks and green spaces, 365 acres of passive and active urban parkland, of which 116 acres is tree covered, 30 kilometers of trails, and more than 15 horticultural beds. Stratford parks are comprised of a host of amenities which include playground structures, lighted and unlighted ball diamonds, soccer fields, multi-use fields, parking lots, and trails. In addition to the parks, the department actively works to develop and implement a variety of excellent recreational and cultural programs, services, and facilities aimed at improving the quality of life for Stratford residents. The Recreation, Culture, and Events budget invests in facilities and diversified programs that ensure that residents can strengthen all aspects of their physical, mental, and spiritual health. The department is now focusing on opportunities to expand existing programs and introduce new ones. The Town of Stratford will continue to invest in our community to help make Stratford the best community possible. Projects for the 2023-24 year include infrastructure development for the community campus, investments in community parks, sustainable developments for the splash pad. The Town of Stratford experienced an increase in community events in this past year with an even further return towards normalcy expecting in the coming budget year. Though COVID didn't cancel any events in the 2022-23 budget year, Fall Fest was canceled due to Hurricane Fiona. Our programs again operated at or near capacity for most activities. We're seeing an increase in supplies, materials, and instructor expenses with an inflationary increase budgeted for this coming year. These increases are also expected to impact our event expenses. The Stratford Youth Centre will see a modest $2,000 increase to their budget to assist with their operations and increased expenses. This space remains a tremendous asset for our youth in grades 5 to 12, who in turn provide volunteer hours in and around our community, while also developing leadership and organizational life skills and development of many long-term friendships. While the winter hasn't been favorable for our outdoor rinks, our budget includes an additional rink liner to be used next season at Bunbury Rink. This liner installation will enable us to better handle fluctuations in temperatures and allow us to reopen this rink sooner after refreezing occurs following these events. This upcoming year looks to be a busy one for the infrastructure department, with work set to begin on the community campus, anticipated funding for a boardwalk at Michael Thomas Waterfront Park, and an expansion of the parking lot at the Robert L. Cotton Park. Other projects expected include continued renewable energy upgrades for town buildings and expansion and upgrades to the town's active transportation network. The town of Stratford continues to value a number of successful existing partnerships with private landowners in the town who have given permission to the town to extend connections to our active transportation network across their private properties. We continually look at further expansion of these partnerships where possible, and would be pleased to have this discussion with interested property owners at any time. Additionally, within the 2023-24 budget are the following highlights. Pondside watershed restoration. Work will continue with the dredging of Moores and Kelly Ponds, and rehabilitation of the wetland and buffer zones surrounding the ponds, which was started in summer 2022 but had to be delayed following Hurricane Fiona. Planned active transportation connectivity includes a paved multi-use trail to be constructed on Kinloch Road between the Trans-Canada Highway and J.K. Beauty Lane. Completion of a section of sidewalk replacement along Keppoch Road between Wood Lane Drive and Pondside Park. Funding is currently being explored to assist with the installment of solar panels on Stratford Emergency Services Center and the town maintenance building. And purchase of a new electric vehicle to add to the town's fleet. The town of Stratford saw the province of PEI install a new roundabout on the Trans-Canada Highway to connect McKinnon Drive. This road is seeing increased use, particularly in the morning and afternoon hours when school drop-off and pickups take place. We are appreciative of this work in our community and our ongoing relationship with the province of PEI on various projects, and to the future connection of this new roundabout to Shakespeare Drive that will be completed as the property in the area is developed. The town of Stratford's Planning, Development and Heritage Department had another very busy year in 2022 with a construction value of $53.8 million in our community. 2022 saw 236 permits issued, requiring approximately 590 inspections to be completed by town staff. As a result of the increasing demands on this department, the draft budget includes the addition of a planner to work under our existing planner for succession planning, as well as the continuation of a 36-week permanent part-time position for a planning and development technician. Due to some staffing vacancies and workload, the draft budget also includes an increase for professional fees to assist with the development of potential short-term rental and food vendor bylaws, which are on the work plan for 2023-24. The Stratford Utility Corporation operates on a cash recovery basis. We continue to analyze expenses to ensure that rates are equitable among our customers and sufficient to meet our long-term needs. We are pleased to deliver this draft budget with only a modest increase to the base rate of sewer and water. This increase is necessary as the Stratford Utility Corporation has seen inflationary expense increases over the past year. The combined combined increase to the base rate amounts to a quarterly increase of $13.85 based on the single-family dwelling rate, or $55.40 annually. The past year saw a former lagoon site backfilled in landscape, and this project remains exciting for our town and will allow us to develop much-needed park space on our waterfront. The site will be green with grass this coming spring for the first time since 1980. Additional highlights from the Stratford utility budget include additional water reservoir tower to supply domestic water and provide further fire protection for our growing community, which will be constructed in 2023. Upgrades to the Corsh sewer pump station and force main, with the ultimate goal to redirect the Corsh station flows away from the pondside station and into the gravity trunk main instead. And pending funding, the completion of upgrades to the Bunbury sewage pumping station to accommodate the current and future growth in that area. Residents and commercial users have continued to support our water conservation efforts. As of the end of 2022, our usage averages 166 cubic meters per household, a reduction from an average of 172 cubic meters at the end of 2021. This is great to see, and we thank residents for their efforts to further reduce our precious water resource. Residents who have not yet had a water audit completed are encouraged to contact the town to learn how you might save even more water. The 2023-24 budget year will see the utility continuing to implement the inflow and infiltration reduction program as a means to minimize the amount of water entering the sewer system that does not require treatment. Given that we are now pumping our sewage to Charlottetown, this work is even more important to complete and will reduce the amount of surface and groundwater seeping into the sewer system. The utility continues to monitor and review the sewer system to identify areas that require attention and repairs. In 2022, we've been able to rehabilitate 205 meters of sewer by using innovative technology where the existing pipe was lined through manhole access with no excavation work required. As we conclude our presentation, on behalf of Town Council and staff, I thank you in advance for your input. As we are a growing community, our needs too are growing, and our budget reflects this. There are many exciting opportunities ahead for our community, and we look forward to working with our federal and provincial counterparts to continue to deliver on some of these in the near future. Your council remains committed to being fiscally responsible with your money while balancing the needs and wants of our community. We will continue to listen to you. Over the next week, we ask that you spend a few minutes reviewing this draft budget and use the brief online survey we have developed to let us know how it reflects and meets your priorities for the upcoming year. We will review this feedback and make adjustments if or where necessary. Our community is filled with excitement and optimism. Let's continue to work together to build the best community possible. I would now open the floor to comments and questions, and please use the microphone so that those viewing online can hear you. And if you're watching live, you can use the chat function and type in your question, which will be read out loud. We would ask that you please state your name as well before beginning your question or comment. I now open the floor to you.
Just while we're waiting for comments, I just want to mention something I should have mentioned at the beginning, and that is that Councillor Jody Jackson would have been here tonight, but he has another commitment, and Councillor Jeff McDonald is unavoidably delayed. He's traveling, and he was unavoidably, his flight was canceled, so he wasn't able to get back in time for this meeting, but they give their regrets.
Thank you, Your Worship. No questions from the floor. We'll leave the lines open a bit for the online in case anyone has any questions or comments in that venue.
Nothing coming in at the moment.
I'll just say then, while we're waiting, I want to thank you, Councillor Dowling, for all the work you did to bring this budget to us tonight, and to Kim, Director of Finance, Kim O'Connell, and Director of Community and Business Engagement, Wendy Watts, and CAO Jeremy Crosby, who worked really hard to get this budget completed and in consultation. It's not an easy job to put this. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of different priorities, and there's a lot of discussion that has to take place. So I just want to express my appreciation to you all for doing this. I think it's a great document, and I look forward to hearing some any comments or any ideas that people have for any improvements that we could make. So thank you again.
Thank you, Worship. And there is, of course, always the survey as an opportunity for the public to provide feedback over the course of the next week after they've had the opportunity to review and digest the draft budget before we bring it before Council for formal ratification. And just to echo your comments, Your Worship, as I was saying to Kim and Wendy when they come in this evening, and I have the easy part, I just have to read it off. Staff have worked very diligently, very hard for a very long time. And it's not just the directors and the CAO that are here this evening. It's all directors and all members of their team who sat and worked and plowed away tirelessly to bring this budget draft forward for us to review tonight. So I thank all of them as well, Your Worship. Okay. Well, it doesn't look as though we have any questions at the moment, unless you folks have any questions that you'd like to pose.
They're all answered. Beat me to it.
The only other thing I might mention is that the Finance Committee has also provided input with regard to our priorities, and all the members of our committees they provide the priorities for the different areas and make recommendations to Council as well. So we get a lot of input from the engagement is really high in this town, and really appreciate that, because people, when you're involved, they say people get the kind of government they deserve, that if you're involved and interested and give input and feedback, then you get better government. So we really appreciate everybody's feedback.
Yeah, thank you for that, Your Worship. And it's something I noticed about Stratford, and I think, as I mentioned to you and Council before, it's probably not the only community in Canada that involves its citizens on committees to the degree that Stratford does, but certainly unique for PEI, and I would suggest there's very few within Canada that have that level of engagement, of involvement with their cities or communities and citizens directly with the committees themselves, and providing, real and earnest input and participation during the committees that are held each month, committee meetings. So we do have an extremely highly engaged citizenry here in Stratford. We're very fortunate for that, and just coming into this council, I feel very fortunate, Your Worship, that it is such an open and inclusive council. There's no don't look up when it comes to Stratford. Everything is there. It's in the open. People want information, they just have to call, and it'll be provided to them. So it's a very well-engaged staff as well as well-engaged community. So it's a wonderful place to live. So I guess with that, we'll adjourn our session tonight, and people are certainly welcome to stay around and have a chat with councillors or mayor or staff if you wish.